When Alexander Volkanovski got his second victory over Max Holloway at UFC 251, many fans were upset. In a close fight where Volk was dropped on 2 occasions, the eye test pretty clearly told the story Max won the fight. Debating scorecards is of no interest to me at the moment. What is of interest though? What happened in the third fight? Before breaking down Volk's masterclass, let's address the main false narrative which surrounded this fight. Holloway was washed. Yes, the same Max Holloway who would go on to win his next 3 fights, capping it off with that thing that happened at UFC 300. The idea of Holloway being washed was short-lived by most educated fans, so the question remains, what happened at UFC 276? How could the second fight be so competitive and the third a domination? How did Volk completely shut out a top 10 UFC fighter of all time? Let's break down how Volk solved Holloway. Volk begins the fight feigning with his lead hand and foot while exclusively circling to his left. Holloway, who made the adjustment of a lighter lead leg in the second fight because of the battering Volk put on him in the first, came out similarly light on his lead leg. When in a more boxing-oriented stance, your feet are further apart and planted. This allows low kicks to have a greater impact for many reasons. The weight is placed on the leg, which makes it harder to lift. The further the legs are apart, the harder to lift, and the more weight you put onto the leg, the more the kick hurts. The boxing stance is heavy on the lead leg, whereas a Muay Thai stance is famously very light on the lead leg, putting practically no weight on it and keeping it very close to your other foot. This adaptation is essential in Muay Thai as the rules of the sport are obviously completely different from boxing. This stylistic change from Holloway was key in causing problems for Volk in the second fight. However, the element of surprise was now gone. Volk and his team knew Holloway had this wrinkle, and you know what J. Cole said. So how was Volk going to deal with this? Max Holloway is one of the greatest pressure and volume strikers the sport has ever seen. Fans had just seen what could happen if you let Max get rolling with pressure and combinations. The worst beating in UFC history. Kattar absorbed 445 significant strikes, with 274 of those landing to the head. So the strategy should be clear. Don't let him pressure you. The only other man to beat Holloway since 2014 was Dustin Poirier. The bout did take place at 155, but Poirier met Holloway with serious power as he tried to move forward. Holloway's mythical chin allowed him to stay in it and still find success in what turned out to be a very close fight. So, it seemed like to stop the Holloway avalanche, you had to meet him with some force. But Volk was doing the opposite. To start the fight, Volk was on the back foot and staying far away from all of Max's weapons. Circling to his own left allowed Volk to stay out of the line of Holloway's closest weapons, the jab and the lead leg. If Holloway wanted to get his offense going, he'd have to really close the distance. Holloway was throwing feeler teeps to the leg that were coming up short. He could not find his range. With Holloway unable to find his range, Volk started to more easily find his. While Volk circled to his own left, he was doing a great job of both gauging the distance and controlling Max's weapons by hand fighting. With Volk checking the rear hand of Holloway, he didn't have to worry about the right hand coming back in his direction. This allowed Volk to take minor angles to his own left to help find his jab. This Volkanovski jab set up everything else in his repertoire, especially the right hand. As the shorter man by a good margin, Volk was dominating Holloway at range and leading him into his punches. Volk began to land this jab at will. And once Holloway tried to counter, the angle which Volk was taking was allowing him to easily get out of the way and then counter Holloway's counter. Usually when jabbing, you're moving forward and towards your opponent. Holloway expected this and threw to where Volk would be if he had done that. But Volk was sliding off to his own left, which gave him the perfect angle to both avoid Holloway's shots and then counter Holloway's counter. Volk would continue to do this throughout the fight. Stay at range, only go into range on his terms, out-jab Holloway with the hand fighting and angles, then land his power shots when countering Holloway's counter. These are generally simple techniques from Volkanovski, but the way he paired it all together at the highest level completely shut down a top 10 fighter of all time in Max Holloway. Volkanovski is looking to regain his throne on April 12th against Diego Lopes. Coming off of 2 knockout losses and being on the wrong side of 35, many are doubting the all-time great. Only time will tell how Volkanovski will fare in the matchup, but no matter the outcome, Alexander Volkanovski is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And this night against Holloway at UFC 276 was his greatest performance.